So with Blaze's help, we're going to kind of talk around the question this evening. What one thing can we do to support and incorporate more local foods into our lives? I see Chris here, local producer, and that's awesome as well. So quickly, I think most of us, we all know each other, but for the purposes of the recording and whoever might join us later, if we each want to go around the room, just say your name, your connection to OC, and then I'll kind of turn it over to Blaze to share a little bit about what his thoughts are around that question, and then we'll get started. So Megan England, OC Youth Engagement Coordinator, and I have the privilege of connecting with our alumni and other OC folks on this call every month, which is like my favorite thing to do. It's always one of the funnest hours of the month for me. And with that, Daryl, I think you're next on my screen.
Daryl Birkenfeld, and OC Deputy Director, and glad to see you all on here tonight. And yeah, I'm enjoying some asparagus I just cut 30 minutes ago. Cooked it up, gave Joanne her part, and got my part.
Awesome. And Paul?
Paul Martin. I've hung around Daryl and over a lot of commons for a long time. And, great to join y'all.
Perfect. And Chris?
Name's Chris Dyer, OC alumni here in Amarillo, Pixie Hollow Farms.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us, Chris. It's good to see you.
Thank you, too.
And Blaze, take it away.
Chris, it is so good to see you, man. Yeah, so I am talking tonight and I'm taking off some different hats, and I'm just talking as like a human and from personal experience this evening, and kind of my journey. So I'm not hopefully it sounds more like storytelling and less like proselytizing was the goal. So I'm going to just share some quick slides with you guys to open up the conversation. Cool. Can you guys see this okay?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Yeah, I think for me, local food is so much more than just eating. It's so much more than what comes to our plate. I love the term that's kind of emerged in the last couple of years of community-based food systems. I think food is community, and it's heritage, and it's belonging and herencia, and so many things. And I think it's important to unpack that idea of local food in our lives, because there is so much that comes with that term. It can end up being really political, and there can be some like deep-seated emotion around, you know, why we feel what we feel. And I think it's really important to name those emotions and those convictions as well. This is all like pictures of our life here. So hopefully you find it intimate. Yeah, this is a new field we just opened up this past year. Yeah. This is us. We're making some. I'm gonna make you guys really small over here. This is us making some blue corn muffins with our landlord, whose land we rent, and her little grandkiddo. Tegan has finally perfected the blue corn muffin recipe, and they're so moist and wet and dense. It's great. But I think it's really important to look at local food, not in terms of how many miles it's come to us, but how did that food come to us? Or else we're just recreating the same system that we're trying to run from the conventional food system. And this food system that's really oppressive or degrading of our ecosystems and our way of life. Yeah, so I think it's important to look at those values of what brought that food to the table. And maybe that in that local becomes just like a byproduct of the process, not the end all goal. Of course, you know, we're not like, I didn't know who I was going to talk to. We're not all growers, you know, and it's really hard, and it's my gosh, I just lost all my spinach to some dang rabbits, guys. It's ridiculous.
Mm,
Yeah, and there's ways we can participate. This is apparently not for this group on the call, but to like vote with our dollars essentially, and either support a CSA and work directly with the producer. Grocery store co-ops are also really rad to aggregate producers in the same space. And of course, you could get aesthetic and have a bi-regional diet. And hopefully none of this comes off as like liberal. Oh gosh, what would be the word? Like liberal self-help that you should ascribe to. That's not I think the tone at all in it, but just ways in which we can participate and find community in the process. I think there's really three things that happen when you gather around community food or local food, and it's good ecology, good ethics, and good equality. I think more people get to come to the table in the decision-making process. In land stewardship and the overall health of our ecosystems. I think these are kind of, if I could boil it down into three areas, this is how I can condense it. Ecology being one of those. So much more happens when we steward the ground around us. In terms of microbial health and the humus beneath our feet and the biodiversity that we steward. These are just some things we've grown, but Berlin. And it's super rewarding and challenging all at the same time. I feel like I heard it perfectly the other day on this local food producers call. This gentleman was talking to another gentleman, this farmer, and he's like, "Whoa, you have 40 years of experience." And he goes, "No, I don't have 40 years of experience farming. I have 40 different experiences trying farming for the first time." And I really loved that quote. There's a lot of humility in it. And I think there's some humility in participating with the earth in this way. St. John's bells. There's some garlic that we've grown that we hung up last year.
I love that picture. That's nice.
Oh, thanks. Oh, the corn?
Oh, the garlic hanging.
Oh, yeah.
Berlin's a garlic grower.
Thank you. Yeah, so that's my kind of like heart pitch right there. But really is kind of taking it from the beginning. Are there any introductory ways that maybe someone has gotten involved with local food that looked like just signing up for a CSA, but maybe became something so much more?
I just personally really appreciated your comment that like maybe growing is not for everyone. I have tried. It is not in my skill set, a lot of it. So yeah, definitely participating in like a CSA or being regulars at a farmer's market, or like you said, voting with our dollars. That's super attainable for me when I can't necessarily grow it in my rental or things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what are some other like low-hanging fruit like that people have gotten involved with their local food scene? And maybe you just really like to eat too, that's also okay.
Blaze, I like your 3 E's, but I'll hold it until Berlin says what she's going to say.
I was just gonna say like the farmers markets are easy ways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good social scenes, to be a part of and to cultivate. Thanks for that, Berlin. Daryl, what's your comment on the 3 E's, brother?
I like that you dug into ecology some. Could you dig into ethics, into equality? That's still to come.
Let's save that for a little bit. Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right.
I think like Berlin said, farmers markets for a lot of people are that like social event that's like a good kind of first step into that. So I love making sure I find all of the growers at those markets, because a lot of times there are many things besides producers there. So making sure that we can connect with those local folks who are actually doing the work of producing food and expressing our appreciation, and B, supporting them with our dollars, so that that farmers market can continue to grow and become more than just a social thing. Like that's where I get my produce in the summer.
Mhm.
I like how food builds an exchange paths of exchange. So I got some berries from someone because I give them asparagus. I want to give them asparagus, but then they have something that they want to gift me with. So I like how that act can create ripple effects and give a lot of energy and connection.
Also, like locally owned restaurants have been a great way, some low-hanging fruit, and great ways to get into distributing bigger quantities as well versus the CSA.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'll just
Right.
underline the connections a little bit. Today I went to a funeral mass of Gilbert Brazeno. When I retired and I was gonna change Seguin and change the world, what caught on with people that came to our monthly meetings was the idea of community garden. So we started this community garden. We started the Lulac Garden, which was the largest 2-acre area. And always had at least an acre planted. And initially myself and a young fellow, Jacob, who was challenged in many ways, he helped me, and we pull it and bring it to the Christian cupboard. And there was Gilbert Brazeno just working his tail off at the food bank at the Christian cupboard. And he was just the most amazing guy I met. I hated that I had to go to his funeral mass today, but it was a relationship that I'll cherish forever. So just emphasizing the connections that local food makes.
That's beautiful. Another thing that just came to me as you're talking about community gardens and things, when I was teaching, one of the things I found as a home ec teacher was obviously my kids knew nothing about local foods or really like eating healthy in general. And so that was kind of an easy in as I taught them how to cook in general. We compared notes on like the cost and the nutritional value of growing your own or going to the farmer's market versus getting whatever processed thing is on the shelf in the grocery store. And even where the lunchrooms maybe couldn't or didn't know the rules about bringing in local foods. In my classroom, I had a lot of flexibility. I could go to the store or go to the garden and get whatever I wanted just as a classroom teacher to do my lessons. And so I think that's a great way to get in at a lot of like the school and student level. Home ec and family and consumer science education, just at like the very basic level, is kind of low hanging.
That's one thing that
Yeah.
popped into my mind was like churches, our church communities, a lot of them have food pantries and People that need, that might be another great outlet.
Yeah, I think you touched on this a little bit earlier, Daryl. To me, like pace is a big part of the like the ethics or like the moral compass of behavior that we adopt when we start stitching ourselves into like local food as our provision and sustenance. It's like you sacrifice them convenience and comfort and a lot of the like automatic, like, you can just like make an exchange really quickly and or like click buy the things you need. And I think when you dip down into that ethic of like relying on community then and relying on people and these type of exchanges, it costs more. It like costs more of your time and it costs more of your schedule, and it's not as convenient. Yeah. We have a goat milk lady that we get raw goat milk from in the Allsup's parking lot outside the Pueblo, and it's like $10 for these like glass jars that we exchange every time back and forth. And it's the most incredible milk I've ever had. It's, it's like illegal raw, filled with all this like beautiful microbial activity going on. And it's so inconvenient to me here at the parking lot at Allsup's at, 11 a.m. on a Saturday, for like one thing. It's just like nothing about that is, the contemporary Americana experience.
So really, Blaze, that's you're doing a different kind of investment, and that it's a cost, but it's also it's an investment that brings returns that you don't get from swiping your card or going through the supermarket.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a both and, huh?
Mm-hmm. You've been getting that goat's milk for a while.
A little bit now, yeah. Should have a pretty healthy gut by now.
Look at you. That's why you're so radiant.
Chris, did you want to make a comment on those email addresses you sent in? Is that something you want to remark on? Oh, that was for you. Cool. Yeah, does anyone have Paul, it sounds like yourself. Does anyone else have any relationships that came at them from the kind of local food space or cultivating the land that's really made an impact on you?
Well, I'll just say that the years that I really worked these community gardens around here, from say 2007 to 2013 or so, maybe a little longer, I just met so many great people that would come out to the garden. And I have a little story about a grandmother and her daughter and grandkids, and that the daughter had gone through what we were calling little agroecology activities, and she just insisted that afternoon we did that in the morning, that the whole family had to come out, and then people saying, I remember my grandma's garden or my mother and father's garden, and just a lot of experience like that, a lot of people connections at that point when I was spending a lot of time during the day and into the evening out in the gardens. A lot of great stories.
For me, it was less of like a producer, like growing connection. But when I lived in Oklahoma, I had some family nearby that like we had just kind of drifted from, hadn't made great connections with in a long time. And I reached out to her, and we ended up like every weekend when the farmers market was open, that was our time together. And so we kind of redeveloped that family relationship through meeting over local foods and purchasing our produce all summer together. And it was a great a great kind of reconnection time and a relationship that has grown really strong since then. And she's like one of my best friends now.
What was your favorite thing to buy in the farmer's market?
They had great like strawberries and tomatoes, which I feel like were always hard to get at our grocery stores. And then we had a really great local like cheese person that was really fantastic.
Cool.
And I want to say just a little bit of, even though I don't work this to the extent that Daryl and Joanne do, and my family did growing up, but out foraging, I like to use, you know, dandelions, the parts of dandelion, plantain, of course, nopalitos and tunas, you know, in demonstrations to the youth, you know, and kids and, you know, grasshoppers too, you know, but just it's a good way to kind of get their attention and using these local foods that you can find by the roadside, out in the pasture and whatever. There's many there that you can just use, and people don't. I mean, of course, the Mexican Americans used a lot of nopalitos in the past, but now they buy them in the store. They're all over the place this time of the year for free, and just, you know, demonstrating to kids that you can eat these things, and it hooks them a little bit, sometimes a lot.
Blaze, I'm curious to know what Berlin is finding as she, you know, got herself involved in the Beginning Farmers program, and also Chris.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. For me, the Beginning Farmers program really built some good relationships. Obviously, with my mentors, now they're like family, and just like the wealth of information and everything that they've given me has been huge change to my life. So that's been great. And then everyone else too that is in the group, like all the local producers, learning how, you know, what they do and how long they've been doing it, just really puts a lot of everything in perspective of what's going on in the community that I joined kind of midway. So that was a great way to connect and jump into it all.
Do you like growing best or better, or you like that all the same? Growing, marketing?
I like it all the same. I do. There's there's good and bad with it all. I like the tranquility of being out in the field, and, you know, just it helps you keep grounded. But and then when you at the markets, you know, just that excitement and all the gratitude, enthusiasm that you get from your customers, you just kind of reinvigorates you for the next week to be like, okay, this is why I'm out here busting it in the hot heat. So I think it goes hand in hand, that it keeps you going. You kind of need that encouragement.
When I was in Boulder in Europa, we held these like food insecurity big meals. There was a better name for it, but we would like attempt to gather either like produce around them was going to go bad, or a purchase if we were given the, like, you know, some funds. And then we cook a big meal and then gather around this food, and then times just sharing that we've been food insecure and just like normalizing that in our lives, and kind of debunking some of the you know, scarcity to share, or idea that like most other people don't have that experience. And those are pretty powerful times of gathering around some form of local food and community.
Beautiful.
I'd love to share. For me, I grew up on a farm, so I've been around food for a bit, but left for the military and got out of the military, started growing again, and have been on my own for a long while. And then during COVID, I met with Justin and started an internship with Ogallala and got connected in with all you great people. And so back to what Berlin was saying with encouragement, it's really hard when you're on your own and there's nobody else to talk to or nerd out with about plants, you know, or be part of that moment of sharing seeds or something. And for me, I found that with Ogallala, and it was really neat because I started with Justin, and since then I've met you, Blaze, and Berlin, and everybody else, Daryl included, and have managed to go from just being a producer to finding a bit of a friendship network that encourages me to be something more than just a producer. So for me, it's neat because while we're working to provide better food security in our own neighborhoods and things, this has given me more and given me more of a community than I had before. So I'm thankful for that.
Yeah, very well put. It's true.
Chris, are you finding some of that too with the Panhandle Producers Collective?
I would love to say yes, but being in its early stages right now, we're definitely driving the short bus, struggle bus, trying to make sure there's enough of us wanting to do that. But you know, it's like a garden. There's weeds in a garden and there's plants in a garden, and it takes time to develop your soil and get into everything where you want it. So right now we're on that quest to develop the things we want, and I'm hopeful that we're going to find more of a community, but in all honesty, it's really hard here where we're at right now.
You find it's tough, like when people have different goals or maybe different agendas, or
I don't know if it's different goals or agendas. It's just finding people who are truly interested in being part of a change versus just, you know, being part of the moment or being part of a farmer's market. It's developing people who truly want this long term versus being in the limelight for the short term, you know?
Yeah, I think for us too with the co-op, it's been a challenge finding people to be able to fully split their time because they're also busy being producers, and well, there's a lot of other work to be done besides just being out in the field. And that's the challenge we've had, people kind of taking the interest in the storefront and realizing like this is all of our storefront. We all need to kind of put in a little bit more than you would any other place. It's still a business, your business, even though you don't have to be there every day. That can be challenging.
there's
Sorry,
this no worries. There's this I just have needed a lot more story in my life recently, and so I picked up this podcast called Seeds and Their People. It's these two lovers that started True Love Seeds, and they just interview folks on, like, you know, why collards matter so much to, you know, so and so, or specifically Ira Wallace. Ira Wallace, tell us about your love of collards, you know, and it's so cool to hear someone just nerd out for like an hour on, you know, like these collard varietals. And you know, they interviewed this other woman who's kind of like our age, Berlin, Megan, Chris, that she's like Korean American, and she grows chow mein, which is like a Korean watermelon. And yeah, and talks about how important that is to her, and but how like back home it's not that important to a lot of South Koreans. And just it's just really fascinating to hear some of these, you know, how it gives them meaning and purpose, and walking with these certain seeds for like years. Yeah, it's just real intimate, and it's I think that's the type of community I hunger for when I'm around producers, being able to like share those intimacies. And it is so much more relationship too, than just like movement of a product. Because if we did it just for that, then most of us probably wouldn't be still doing it.
Blaze, I just dropped a link in the chat. Is that the correct link for the Seeds and Their People show?
You sure did. Wow.
No, but I'll pop it in. Yeah. That is True Love Seeds, but they have yeah.
Perfect. Like I said earlier, I am not like any kind of expert when it comes to local foods, but I think hearing you all talk is what makes me love my job so much, because I love that OC can kind of serve as a landing place to hopefully be that kind of encouragement. And I was talking to John last week about, we met up with the producer, Micah Venhouse, and it was just so exciting to see someone who is so passionate, just like you guys, about what he does as a local producer. And I love that we get to work with that and hopefully provide encouragement and support and tools to make people succeed. Oh, perfect. Thanks for sharing that link.
Mhm. Do you guys have a great moment when local food has brought you together with people in difference?
I'm sorry, would you repeat that, Blaze?
Yeah. Do you have a moment or an encounter you can recall where like local food has brought you together with people of like difference or different backgrounds that you can have orchestrated?
Yeah, sure. I mean, when we started the community gardens, most of them were over on the I'll say less advantaged part of the town, poor part of town, and I got to know recent immigrants and older immigrants. Most folks on that part of town are Latinx and some blacks, and it just opened a lot of doors to relationships with those folks. I didn't know the word quilites, Daryl. And I remember this old Hispanic woman pointing to careless weed. And, it was mostly careless weed. There wasn't any lamb's quarters, but she used the word quilites, and you can eat those. And yeah, I knew you could eat them, but I wasn't familiar with that word. And so, I learned a little Spanish, expanded my vocabulary a little bit in Spanish, that sort of thing. Then I looked up the word. I thought maybe initially that it was just for careless weeds, but it's for a general, for kind of greens that some people like to call weeds. And I'm trying to eliminate that word from my vocabulary, but anyway.
So Paul, you never saw a weed that you didn't want to eat.
Excuse me?
You never saw a weed that you didn't want to eat. Well, you thought about it anyway, right?
Well, yeah, and you do have to be a little careful with some
That's
of them.
right. Yeah. What do you do with amaranth?
Amaranth, if you cut it, careless, that's a careless weed or pig. If you cut it young, it makes a kind of a pretty good little cooked spinach like deal. But if you let them get old, they're tough and kind of not, the taste isn't as great. But
So
yeah, you can kind of blend them in with the spinach and other leafy vegetables also. But yes.
Paul, do you know what word I'm trying to eradicate from my vocabulary?
What's
It's
that?
invasive.
Invasive.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm like, oh, what's this
Yeah.
plant trying to teach me?
yeah, I think, what would be a better word? A native, non-native? Non-native, is that good? Maybe that's not good because I was using that last week with Kids on the Land, but started
Persistent.
thinking about this word native and non-native, maybe I better be careful here, but that's what we've been using. We really haven't used the word invasives, but
Robin Wall Kimmerer has a really beautiful chapter in her book, Breeding Sweetgrass, where she talks about being naturalized to place or being a naturalized citizen and relates it to, the process of becoming American, but it like breaks out of that conversation of like native, non-native into, people who take the time to be naturalized to like land and to a space. And I think it's a really interesting and
I think it's
observation.
good to have those kind of discussions. I mean, we need more of them. And a lot of times I use words without really thinking about how I'm using them and maybe not as sensitive as I should be. I like to think I'm sensitive, but oftentimes I reflect on what I've just said. And, why did I say that? And I was thinking about it this week on, okay, you're a native. We were comparing the root system of natives and non-native grasses. And I take this one young kid, well, you're a native and you're not. And then wait a minute, I got to be careful here.
Yeah.
So I did reflect this past week. I'm glad you brought that up because I was reflecting on my use of native and non-native. Invasive, yeah, that's dandelions. They're pretty good eating, and I've got them still out in the yard because it's been so cool this year, and they're pretty. But they're invasive. I've got a book back here by Crosby, Ecological Imperialism. Talking somewhat about these invaders. So you're going to make me think about my little intro to that activity with Kids on the Land now, Blaze. I appreciate that. You're going to make me think a little deeper.
Blaze, you're gonna come up with a way to naturalize Old World blue stem, because there's hundreds of thousands.
KR blue stem, they call it.
Yeah, there's
My God, that stuff.
Is this not an attractive grass?
Well,
It's been
it's
incorporated?
everywhere.
It's not real productive, and it's replacing, a lot of our
Shortgrass.
natives. It's replacing a lot of our natives and along roadsides and where we put the Lulac garden, Daryl it was just solid KR blue stem, before we put in the garden. So I mean
Maybe it crosses over into this thing about it's a monoculture. It really doesn't tolerate other.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
it becomes a relative monoculture and not as diverse as these natural systems. But now I'm using another word I got to wrestle with, natural. But anyway, it's not as. I think I'm going to do a blog here. I've got some notes on it that we need to manage towards or let nature, whatever that means, take its course towards climax community. But I don't think KR blue stem necessarily belongs too much in that community.
I've been interested in like these different different plants that we would call like local foods in our area that you try to domesticate and it just doesn't translate into like domesticated field production or any type of. They're just like better picked out in the wild,
Mm-hmm.
And I've always appreciated that about some species.
Mm-hmm. They're hard-headed. They just, hey, I'm not going to be roped in by you humans.
Uh-huh.
So on your question, did you say what ways people of difference gathered or in that are indifferent? The only reason why I asked, the
Oh.
one thing that came to mind was like during funerals, like that's a huge time when people gather around food and bring stuff and kind of,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's what you were talking about or looking for.
Yeah, not people that are indifferent, but people
Oh.
indifference. Mhm,
Yeah, indifference. Okay.
mhm. This grass is beautiful, by the way. I just pulled it up. I guess I don't know what the seed head profile looks like though, huh? Or lack of. Chris, if you're trying to talk, you're muted, brother.
Is that better?
Yeah, there you go.
Sorry. She's
You
not
good?
talking right, but it's okay. I got out of the military and was growing my first garden out there in Colorado and was going to culinary school. Got in the idea that I could grow food and cook food and do all kinds of great things to help feed people. And went with some fellow food nerds downtown Denver one weekend, decided we would cook a bunch of food for some homeless people and try to feed our brothers and sisters in need of some food. And about an hour into it, we had police show up. Apparently, you're supposed to have a permit to serve food to the public. Well, we didn't have a food permit, and I got thrown in handcuffs and was getting escorted to jail over serving food to people who couldn't afford to buy it. And it was in that moment, my first time in handcuffs, that I realized, all these things that I went and I fought for and was part of something for were missing the agenda. They forgot about the people who really needed help. So for me, I'm standing with these people who had no money for food and were very, very thankful for the idea that we were there giving them something to eat and being met by my brothers in uniform who I served with and being thrown in handcuffs and thrown in the back of a squad car over soup and bread. So for me, it was a pretty big learning experience, and the idea that I'd never been in handcuffs before, and here I was ex-military being arrested because I was serving soup to people who were hungry.
Mm-hmm. Woo. It's a powerful story, brother.
There was a young fellow that I grew up with. He actually, I think he's a little older than me, but he was a couple grades behind me, and he became a pretty good singer. He's on Facebook with me. He plays at Green every once in a while. Claude Butch Morgan. And he on Thanksgiving Day, and Betsy and I went about 3 times to help him, but he would never get a permit. He would just go in real quickly, kind of in the alleyways over in close to downtown San Antonio, and start cooking biscuits and gravy and eggs, and people would just come out of the cracks and just, it was just amazing. And I think only once when I worked it did the police come around, but he talked them out of, we're almost through, he talked them out of it. He didn't get arrested or anything like that, but I think that's great what y'all were doing, Chris. I'm sorry you were in handcuffs. I was actually in handcuffs once too. But I
Riding-
won't
riding
tell
your
that. I won't tell that story. I was in Bryan many years ago.
You can't tease us now.
No. It's too long a story. But I didn't get put. My major professor was a part of that too, and he called the lawyer real quick, so I didn't have to spend any jail time. But they did put the only time I've had handcuffs put on me. But anyway, Chris, I think that was a wonderful. What y'all were trying to do was a wonderful thing. I hate it that it ended up like that. And I think local foods, you know, whether you have a garden in your little raised bed like we have, we've got a lot of pecan trees, but we don't have much sun
Mm.
here on this place, and community gardens and farmers markets. And, you know, this week I purchased some strawberries from Poteet.
Wow.
Betsy complained that they went bad real quickly, but they were low, you know, the labeling assured us that they were grown in Poteet, Texas. I didn't think they grew them anymore. I thought I'd tell the story that they had the Poteet Strawberry Festival, but they get their strawberries from California, but these were supposedly grown in Poteet. And foraging, there's just so many opportunities, and you can really have a lot of fun with producing local foods and buying local foods, going to farmers markets, and I think it's great.
Well, you live in a 35 inches of rainfall area, so that helps. Tell us about dewberries. I love to hear you talk about dewberries.
Dewberries.
Well, yeah, I'll just say my family growing up, we when I was after I was born, we were on a 140 acre farm, but during the drought of the 50s, of course, y'all wouldn't have thought it was a drought, you know, rainfall y'all get out there. But in the drought of the 50s, we moved to Divine. We had 5 acres, and eventually my dad, you know, got to where we'd have 200-300 hogs on that 5 acres. But one thing that my dad did every year, usually around Mother's Day, or a little bit before, he'd take us to the farm in Stockdale, and he'd crack the whip over us. If we weren't picking with 2 hands into that bucket, picking dewberries, we would load up. We'd usually pick during the weekend and pick for a couple of days, get a lot of red bugs. He'd put us in sulfur bath water, you know, after we got through. And anyway, then we'd take those dewberries back home and wash them, and Mom would make jam and jelly preserves, and we'd back then we didn't have a freezer, but we'd take them to the locker plant and freeze some of them. And dewberries, dewberry ice cream, dewberry cobbler, oh man. And we still do some of that, but not like mom and dad did. I mean, they do it like Daryl and Joanne. They would put up a lot of.
They had to feed all of you, Paul.
They had to feed us. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah,
you got
Daryl knows
groceries.
more about that. He had twice as many in his family as we had. We only had 6, but anyway, they had to feed us, and Daddy knew where that hard pear. He knew where those trees were in that community, and we'd pick those, and Mom would make good apple pie and apple crisp. And, you know, we always had a big garden and put up, and then we'd put up the sweet corn Daddy raised, but then we'd go and get field corn too from farmers, and green beans and Swiss chard. We didn't, and mustard greens. We didn't know collards and kale, those things, but we ate a lot of Swiss chard and mustard greens. And
Yeah. Paul, look at that.
anyway, just on and on. We
Look at
ate a
that.
lot of local food.
Chris has got a dewberry plant up in Amarillo.
Chris has a dewberry.
You put in the chat.
Yeah. Oh, he has one.
I do have a dewberry.
Cool.
Fun story. I got to move my stepdad back from Arkansas. I left him there, moving back here to Texas, and from Colorado, getting out of the military. And then he got to the point where he didn't need to be there on his own. So I told him, you're going to come live with me. You're done being out in the woods by yourself. I appreciate that you want to die out there, but you're going to come die here. So Karen and I packed up, and we took the dogs and went and got the old man and drug him back. And I brought 4 or 5 containers of that dewberry back.
Cool.
And it took off in my tunnel, and I don't water it. I don't do anything to it. And every year it grows right back. No problem.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's awesome.
That's
So-
cool. I have to say, since you're going more east now, I mean, I worked in Georgia, and I had an old fella that worked with the fisheries department, and he was from Giddens, Texas, and he would talk like that, John Joyce. And he and I, we would pick everything on that experiment station, various grapes, elderberries, and make wine. Blackberry, we made a lot of wine
Mhm.
over the years.
Yeah.
So, there's other things you can do with those dewberries.
So they're like blackberries, Paul, but they're smaller. Dewberries?
Yeah, they can be almost as large, if you have a good year, they can almost be as large as blackberries. But blackberries grow up more up into a bush, and dewberries are more like a vine.
Okay.
I think the flavor of dewberries for me is better than blackberries, but sometimes they can get awful seedy. If you have a bad year, they
Mhm.
dry up quick. They can really be seedy, but they still have great flavor.
One time, Blaze went and picked some prickly pear tuna.
Uh-huh.
Tell that story about how your uncle made that beer with it, Blaze. That's one of your
Oh,
great.
really?
Yeah, it's a great foraging story.
Oh yeah.
Made beer with the tuna?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he brewed some beer with it.
But you saw those
Yeah.
tuna along the railroad track in Amarillo, and you remembered where they were, and you went and harvested them.
Yeah, and it was
I mean, that's just to be a quick little story, but who was it that was with us recently? Oh yeah, Bob Turner from New Jersey, an entomologist friend. We took him to the Shiner brewing place in Shiner, and the beer that I liked the best, Blaze, was a prickly pear beer.
Really?
They're actually brewing some tuna. I think I don't know how much tuna they really use, but it had a great flavor. Great flavor.
yeah.
Mhm.
Prickly pear.
We take them too and harvest them and then just freeze the body and just throw them in smoothies all the time too. So
Throw
those
them
are
in
great.
what?
Smoothies.
Oh, do you?
Mm-hmm.
The seed and all?
So I kind of pit it and then I
Oh, okay, I got you.
I de-spine them in a colander.
I got you.
Mhm.
So Paul, Blaze might be the heir apparent on foraging after you.
Yeah. I'll tell you,
He'll beat me out
Da-
big time.
dandelion wine has been one of the best like flower wines we've ever made. It's such a tedious task to like go in your yard and pick all the dandelions
Man,
and
I
deep
can't.
petal them.
Boy,
But
you
it's
are
a good.
persistent. You're determined. Dandelion wine. Yeah, it would take a lot of foraging.
I had never heard of dewberry plant, so I had to look that one up.
Cool.
Well, we actually made a lot more. Well, we didn't, but a guy named Fritz Whip would make muscadine wine for us and give it to us. My dad was already kind of a teetotaler by then. He didn't drink much alcohol, but my mom would go in there and sip that muscadine wine made by Fritz Whip.
Awesome, y'all. Blaze, thank you so much for sharing tonight. We're coming down to the end of our hour. Any last comments before I wrap us up?
Well, I just want to say that it's good to see Berlin and Chris again. It's good to see all of y'all, but they're newer friends, and it's good to see y'all.
Likewise. And I got my book in the mail. I appreciate that.
That's great. Awesome. Thank you all for sharing this space tonight. I really appreciate your conversations and your wisdom and experience. I did want to mention that our next call is going to be May 16th, and we're going to be joined by Linnea Everett, who is the owner of Canyon Journeys, talking about one fun thing. So talking about leisure and recreation and some simple ways to incorporate that into our life in this region. And Linnea, the local Coloradan, and was my first internship supervisor. Super great lady. So it's going to be a great conversation. Same time, same place, May 16th. So